What happens when an entitled prince meets a no-nonsense broadcaster who refuses to play by royal rules? You're about to witness one of the most explosive interviews in recent memory, where privilege collides with hard-hitting journalism, and the results are absolutely devastating. Before we dive into this incredible confrontation, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think about celebrities who can't handle tough questions. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single moment of what's about to unfold. The atmosphere in the talk show studio was electric. Kevin O'Sullivan, known for his razor-sharp wit and refusal to bow to celebrity status, sat across from Prince Harry in what was supposed to be a routine promotional interview for the prince's latest charitable endeavor. But from the moment the cameras started rolling, it was clear this wasn't going to be a typical royal puff piece. "Prince Harry, thank you for joining us tonight," Kevin began, his voice carrying that familiar blend of politeness and skepticism that had made him a formidable interviewer. "I'm curious about this new foundation of yours. You're asking the British public to donate money to help underprivileged children, which is admirable. But some might find it a bit rich coming from someone who's been quite vocal about his disdain for this country." Harry's posture stiffened immediately. "I think you're mischaracterizing my position entirely," he replied. "I've never expressed disdain for Britain or its people. I've been critical of certain institutions and the way they operate, but that's hardly the same thing." Kevin leaned forward slightly. "You've spent the last few years giving interviews where you've essentially painted Britain as this terrible, oppressive place you had to escape from. Now you're back, hand outstretched, asking for donations. Don't you see how that might come across as a bit tone-deaf?" Harry's jaw tightened. "You're twisting my words. I've been open about my struggles with certain aspects of royal life, but I've never attacked the British people themselves. This foundation is about helping children who need support, regardless of where they come from." Kevin's tone sharpened. "You talk about helping children while simultaneously undermining the very institutions that represent stability and continuity for millions of British children. You can't have it both ways. You can't trash the monarchy in one breath and then expect people to rally behind your charitable causes in the next." Harry's face flushed with anger. "I've never trashed the monarchy. I've spoken honestly about my experiences and the challenges I faced. That's not the same as attacking the institution," Kevin scoffed. "You've done everything short of calling the royal family a bunch of racist dinosaurs. Your wife went on national television and accused unnamed members of your family of being concerned about your son's skin color. How is that not attacking the institution?" Harry shot back. "That interview was about sharing our truth and highlighting important issues around race and mental health. It wasn't intended as an attack on anyone." Kevin laughed coldly. "Your truth? What about the truth of millions who respect and admire the royal family? What about the truth of your grandmother, who served this country faithfully for 70 years? Doesn't their truth matter? Or is it just about Prince Harry's truth?" Harry gritted his teeth. "Other perspectives matter. But I have a right to tell my story, don't I? I have a right to speak about my experiences without being crucified for it." Kevin nodded slightly. "Absolutely. But rights come with responsibilities, and one of those is accepting that actions have consequences. You can't make millions from tell-all books and interviews while keeping your royal titles and expecting public sympathy." The studio fell silent, the tension almost tangible. Harry's media handler shifted uncomfortably off-camera. "I think you're being deliberately inflammatory," Harry finally said, his voice tight. "I came here tonight to talk about helping disadvantaged children, not to be lectured about my personal choices." "That's the problem, isn't it?" Kevin pressed. "You want to compartmentalize everything. Criticize and monetize your royal connections when it suits you, then play the victim when anyone dares question your motives. You can't have your cake and eat it too." "I'm not playing the victim," Harry snapped. "I'm trying to do some good in the world while being authentic about my experiences. If that threatens some people, Maybe they should examine why they're so invested in maintaining a narrative that doesn't reflect reality. Kevin raised an eyebrow. Threatens people? Prince Harry, you're sitting in a TV studio worth millions, wearing a suit that probably costs more than most people's monthly salary, lecturing the British public about reality. Do you not see the irony in that? Harry's composure was beginning to crack. What I see is someone more interested in scoring cheap points than having a genuine conversation about issues that matter. This is exactly the kind of toxic media environment I've been talking about. Toxic media environment? Kevin echoed with disbelief. You mean an environment where journalists actually ask difficult questions instead of nodding along with whatever you want to say? How terribly unfair for you! The cameras kept rolling as the tension thickened. Harry's knuckles whitened in his lap. There's a difference between asking difficult questions and ambushing someone with loaded accusations designed to make them look bad, he said finally. Kevin laughed again. Prince Harry, everything I've mentioned tonight is based on your own words, your interviews, your book. If you find them embarrassing when they're repeated back to you, maybe you should have thought about that before saying them. I'm not embarrassed, Harry insisted, though his voice suggested otherwise. I'm frustrated by how you're twisting everything to fit your narrative. My narrative? Kevin shot back. What narrative would that be? That actions have consequences? That public figures should be held accountable? That you can't have your royal cake and eat it too? Your narrative that I'm some sort of traitor to my country and my family, Harry retorted. Your narrative that speaking honestly about mental health and institutional failures makes me the villain. I never called you a traitor, Kevin said smoothly. But, since you brought it up, what would you call someone who takes money from foreign governments while undermining British institutions? What would you call someone who profits from family drama while claiming to want privacy? Harry's face turned red. I'd call them someone trying to build a different kind of life while still contributing positively to society. But clearly, you've already made up your mind about me. Have I? Kevin asked. Or have you made up your mind about me? You came in here tonight expecting soft questions and automatic deference to your royal status. When you didn't get it, you immediately started playing the victim card. I'm not playing any cards, Harry said, his voice tight. I'm simply trying to have a conversation about important issues, but you seem more interested in character assassination. Character assassination? Kevin's voice rose to match Harry's. Prince Harry, I'm using your own words, your own actions, your own public statements. If that constitutes character assassination, then perhaps the problem isn't with me. The tension in the studio was so thick it could be cut with a knife. Harry's media handler was frantically signaling for a break or an end to the interview. But Kevin wasn't finished. Let me ask you something else, Kevin continued, ignoring the frantic gestures. You've made a career out of talking about your mental health struggles, which is fine. But don't you think it's a bit convenient that every time someone criticizes your behavior, you fall back on mental health as an excuse? Harry's eyes flashed with genuine anger. That's completely out of line, Kevin. Mental health isn't an excuse. It's a real issue that affects millions of people. The fact that you'd trivialize it like that shows exactly what kind of person you are. What kind of person am I? Kevin asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Enlighten me. What kind of person asks difficult questions of public figures who profit from their royal connections while simultaneously attacking the institution that gave them those connections? You're the kind of person who uses mental health as a weapon, Harry replied, his voice shaking. The kind of person who thinks that because someone has privilege, they can't have genuine struggles or valid concerns. Oh, I see. Kevin nodded slowly. So anyone who questions Prince Harry's behavior is using mental health as a weapon. Anyone who points out contradictions in your statements is somehow attacking people with mental health issues. That's a very convenient way to shut down criticism, isn't it? That's not what I'm saying at all, Harry protested, though his voice lacked conviction. I'm saying your approach is deliberately inflammatory and designed to cause maximum damage. Damage to whom? Kevin pressed. To you? To your reputation? To your ability to monetize your royal connections? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're the one damaging institutions that millions of people hold dear. I'm not damaging anything, Harry insisted. I'm trying to modernize and improve things. I'm trying to bring transparency and accountability to institutions that have operated in secrecy for too long. Kevin leaned back with a look of mock surprise. Transparency and accountability? Is that what you call it? When you and your wife sat down with a billionaire media mogul and made unsubstantiated claims about your family, that was transparency? When you wrote a book full of private conversations and petty grievances, that was accountability? Those weren't unsubstantiated claims, Harry shot back. Those were our experiences, our truth about what happened behind closed doors. Your truth again, Kevin said with obvious disdain. But what about verification? Corroboration? The basic journalistic principle of confirming facts before publishing them? Or does that not apply when you're a prince with a book deal? I don't need to verify my own experiences, Harry snapped. I was there. I lived through it. I know what happened. Do you? Kevin challenged. Because memory is a funny thing, especially when there's money involved. When you're angry and hurt, looking for someone to blame. How do we know your version of events isn't colored by your own emotions? Harry's face was flushed. Are you seriously questioning my memory? Are you suggesting I made up the racism and the lack of support for mental health issues? I'm suggesting that your version of events is exactly that. Your version, Kevin replied calmly. And presenting it as objective truth without giving others a chance to respond is fundamentally unfair. They had plenty of opportunities to respond, Harry said. They chose not to. Oh, they chose not to, Kevin said sarcastically. Or maybe they chose to maintain some dignity and not engage in a public family feud. Maybe they chose the traditional royal approach. Never complain, never explain. Or maybe they chose to maintain a cover-up, Harry countered. Maybe they chose to protect an institution over protecting people. Or, Kevin said, his voice sharper now, maybe they chose to protect the monarchy that represents stability and continuity for millions of people over the hurt feelings of one privileged individual who couldn't handle the responsibilities that came with his position. The studio fell silent. Harry's breathing was heavy, his hands trembling as he gripped the arms of his chair. You have no idea what you're talking about, Harry finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. You have no idea what it's like to grow up in that environment, to have your every move scrutinized, to have your mental health ignored when you're crying out for help. You're absolutely right, Kevin acknowledged. I don't know what that's like, but I do know what it's like to work for a living. I know what it's like to pay taxes to support an institution that you've spent years undermining. I know what it's like to watch someone with every advantage in life complain about how hard they have it. Every advantage? Harry's voice was incredulous. You think losing your mother at 12 is an advantage? You think having your private grief turned into a public spectacle is an advantage? No, I don't, Kevin replied, his tone softening slightly. And I'm genuinely sorry for your loss. But Harry, that was 25 years ago. At some point, you have to take responsibility for your own choices and your own actions. You can't keep using childhood trauma as an excuse for adult behavior. I'm not using it as an excuse, Harry said firmly. I'm using it as an explanation for why certain things affected me the way they did. But that's exactly what an excuse is, Kevin pointed out. You're saying that because of your trauma, your behavior is somehow justified or understandable. But what about the trauma you've caused to your family? What about the pain you've inflicted on people who believed in you and supported you? What trauma have I caused? Harry demanded. By telling the truth? By speaking honestly about my experiences? By betraying confidences, Kevin replied sharply. By monetizing private family conversations. By making your grandmother's final years more difficult than they needed to be. By turning your family into a soap opera for public consumption. Harry's composure was completely gone now. That's not what I did. That's not what any of this was about, isn't it? Kevin pressed. Then what was it about? What was the point of all the interviews, all the revelations, all the drama? What did you hope to achieve? I hope to make things better, Harry said, his voice cracking slightly. I hope to bring about change, to modernize the institution, to make it more relevant and responsive to modern concerns. And how's that working out for you? Kevin asked with brutal directness. Has the monarchy become more modern? More responsive? Or has it just become more defensive and closed off because of your attacks? They're not attacks, Harry insisted weakly. They're attempts at reform. Reform? Kevin laughed harshly. You call public humiliation reform? You call airing dirty laundry and international media reform? That's not reform, Harry. That's revenge. It's not revenge, Harry said, but his voice lacked conviction. Then what is it? Kevin demanded. What do you call it when you take private family disputes and turn them into public entertainment? When you profit from family drama while claiming to want privacy? Harry opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. For the first time since the interview began, he seemed genuinely speechless. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every moment of his discomfort. I'll tell you what I call it, Kevin continued, pressing his advantage. I call it a betrayal of everything your family stands for. A betrayal of the country that gave you everything you have. The actions of someone who's lost sight of what really matters. You don't know what really matters, Harry finally managed to say. You don't know what it's like to have your own family turn against you when you need them most. Turn against you? Kevin's voice rose again. Or hold you accountable for your choices. There's a difference, Harry. A big difference. The tension in the studio was almost unbearable. Harry's media handler was standing up, clearly ready to intervene. But Kevin wasn't done. Let me ask you one final question, Kevin said, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Do you genuinely believe that your actions over the past few years have made the world a better place? Do you honestly think that attacking your family, undermining British institutions, and turning your personal grievances into a global media circus has achieved anything positive? Harry stared at him for a long moment, his face a mask of barely controlled rage. I think, he said slowly, that you're a small-minded, bitter man who gets his kicks from tearing down people who are trying to make a difference. Kevin's eyebrows shot up. There we go. There's the real Prince Harry, not the wounded victim, not the mental health advocate, the entitled brat who throws insults when he can't win an argument. I'm not throwing insults, Harry protested, his voice shaking with anger. I'm making an observation about your character and your motivations. My motivations? Kevin laughed. My motivation is to ask the questions other journalists are too starstruck or too cowardly to ask. My motivation is to hold public figures accountable for their actions. What's your motivation, Harry? What's really driving all of this? My motivation is to protect my family, Harry replied, his voice rising to nearly a shout. My motivation is to create a better world for my children. My motivation is to break the cycle of dysfunction that has plagued my family for generations. By perpetuating it? Kevin shot back. By creating more drama, more division, more pain? How exactly does that break any cycles? How does turning your family into a reality show protect anyone? You wouldn't understand, Harry said coldly. You've never had to live under that kind of pressure, that kind of scrutiny. You've never had to watch your mother be hounded to death by the media. No, I haven't, Kevin agreed. But I also haven't spent the last few years courting that same media attention while simultaneously complaining about it. I haven't signed multi-million-dollar deals to share private family moments with the world. Those deals allow me to be financially independent, Harry replied defensively. They allow me to support my family without relying on public funds. Financial independence? Kevin's voice was incredulous. You're talking about financial independence while living in a mansion most people could never afford, while your security costs are still covered by taxpayers. That's not independence, Harry. That's having your cake and eating it too. My security costs are not covered by taxpayers, Harry protested. Are you sure about that? Kevin challenged. Because every time you visit the UK, every time you make a public appearance, there are costs involved. Costs that someone has to pay. And it's not just financial costs, is it? It's the cost to your family's reputation, the monarchy's standing, Britain's image around the world. Harry's face twisted with rage. I don't care about Britain's image. I care about the truth. I care about accountability. I care about not letting people get away with treating others badly just because they have titles and power. But you have a title and power, Kevin pointed out. You've used that title and power to launch attacks on people who can't defend themselves publicly. You've used your platform to settle personal scores while claiming to be fighting for justice. I'm not settling scores, Harry insisted, but his voice lacked strength. Aren't you? Kevin pressed. What would you call writing a book full of private conversations with your father and brother? What would you call publicly questioning their character and motivations? What would you call turning family disagreements into international headlines? I would call it telling my story, Harry replied weakly. Your story, Kevin repeated. Always your story. Never theirs. Never the story of the institution that gave you everything you have. Never the story of the millions of people who respected and admired you before you decided to burn it all down. I didn't burn anything down, Harry protested. Didn't you? Kevin's voice was relentless. Then why are you less popular now than you've ever been? Why do polls show that most British people have lost respect for you? Why do your own family members reportedly refuse to speak to you? Because people like you have poisoned them against me, Harry shot back. Because the media has twisted everything I've said and done to fit their narrative. The media? Kevin laughed harshly. Harry, you are the media now. You've made yourself into a media brand. You can't blame the media for your problems when you've become part of it. I'm not part of the problem, Harry insisted. I'm trying to be part of the solution. By doing what? Kevin demanded. By attacking your family? Undermining British institutions? Turning your personal therapy sessions into public entertainment? How is any of that a solution? Harry was silent for a long moment, his breathing heavy. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. I think we're done here. Are we? Kevin asked. Are we done because you've run out of arguments? Because you can't defend your actions? Or because you've realized that maybe, just maybe, you've made some mistakes? We're done because I don't have to sit here and listen to this, Harry said, his voice growing stronger. I don't have to justify my choices to you or to anyone else. But you do, Kevin replied calmly. That's exactly what you have to do. You made your choices public. You profited from them. You used them to attack other people. You absolutely have to justify them. No, I don't, Harry said, starting to stand. I came here to talk about my foundation, not to be ambushed by someone with a clear agenda. My agenda is the truth, Kevin said, not backing down. My agenda is accountability. My agenda is asking the questions that need to be asked. Your agenda is humiliation, Harry shot back, pulling off his microphone. Your agenda is tearing down anyone who threatens your small-minded view of the world. Harry, sit down, Kevin said firmly. We're live on television. You can't just walk away from difficult questions. Watch me, Harry replied coldly. I'm done with this circus. I'm done with people like you who think they can judge me without knowing the full story. The full story? Kevin called after him as Harry moved toward the edge of the set. You've spent years telling us the full story. You've written books, given interviews, made documentaries. If we don't know the full story by now, whose fault is that? Harry stopped and turned back, rage twisting his face. The fault lies with people who refuse to listen, who refuse to understand, who refuse to show basic human compassion. Compassion? Kevin's voice rose to match Harry's. What compassion did you show your grandmother in her final years? What compassion did you show your father when he was dealing with his own health issues? What compassion did you show your brother when he tried to support you? I showed them honesty, Harry replied. I showed them truth. I showed them that I wouldn't be silenced anymore. You showed them betrayal, Kevin shot back. You showed them that family loyalty means nothing when there's money to be made and scores to settle. That's enough, Harry said, his voice shaking. I'm not going to stand here and listen to any more of this. Then don't, Kevin replied. Walk away, prove my point. Show everyone that when Prince Harry faces difficult questions, when he's held accountable, he runs. Harry clenched his fists, staring at Kevin. You know what? You're right. I am walking away. But not because I can't handle your questions. I'm walking away because life's too short to waste on people like you. People like me? Kevin asked. You mean people who ask difficult questions? Who expect public figures to be accountable? Who won't bow and scrape because someone has a title? I mean people who are more interested in destroying than building, Harry replied. People who get their satisfaction from tearing others down rather than lifting them up. I'm not tearing you down, Harry, Kevin said quietly. You're doing that all by yourself. I'm just pointing it out. The words hit Harry like a blow. He stood there, mouth opening and closing, struggling to respond. When none came, he turned and walked off the set, leaving Kevin alone at the desk. Kevin watched him go, then turned back to the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Prince Harry. Walking away from questions he apparently couldn't answer. I suppose when you've spent years avoiding accountability, facing it head-on can be quite a shock. The studio was eerily quiet. Kevin straightened his tie and looked directly into the lens. We'll be right back after this break with more of your calls and comments on tonight's rather eventful interview. As the credits rolled and the lights dimmed, one thing was clear. This was an interview that would be talked about for years. A clash between old-school journalism and modern celebrity culture. Between accountability and entitlement. Between those who ask the hard questions and those who run when they can't answer.